Coach, I know it was just one game, but after what you saw from the two freshmen the other night, I mean, you guys scored 82 points. Fulke doesn't score even. Is that enough to change the way you guys play offense, or was that just one game?
No, Rob, when you go back and look, we tried to do the other night, is some of the things that we were doing, we've been trying to do for weeks on end. And, as we've continued to grow with this team, we've added different things to it. But in terms of the philosophy, in terms of what we're trying to do, that it hasn't changed. We still want to continue to run and take advantage of everybody that we have. But when Fulke wasn't in the game, we had planned on, when you got to think about if he's not out there, how do you want to play offense? We've done all that. I think the key has been that we've been able to get some continual practice where we've been able to do some different things we talked about it probably a month ago where we had played the lineup in the game that we really hadn't got to practice it very much. And when you don't get to practice it very much, you're pretty much going to do what you have practiced up to that point. But in the last couple of weeks, we've been able to do a little bit more in practice because we've had guys healthy enough that we could do it in practice. But the way we play, I can tell you, we've talked about playing like that from day one in terms of getting out and going in transition. But every game's different. I mean, some teams are going to, send more guys back where maybe you can't do it. Some teams are going to be after they score. If you want to run like that consistently, you've got to get stops and you've got to rebound the ball. Because if you're allowing teams to score, that allows some teams to set up three-quarter court pressure. Some teams, fall back, zone, whatever it may be. If we want to run like that, we've got to get stops. And then not let people slow us down when they do score to the degree. Because if you go back to the game the other night, we were able to push the ball quite a bit from 94 feet. But so much of it was predicated, we were able to get some stops.
Toss it over to David Pascal, Ben McKee, and Grant Ramey.
Rick, I guess as a follow-up to that, I read going into last week that Auburn's averaging 10 more points a game with Sharif Cooper, but they're also allowing 10 more points a game. How do you, if your guys are out in transition more or running more, is that a balancing act from the kind of defense that you like to play? Does one ever take from the other?
Well, it can. The other night, I thought we were getting through screens really well the other night. We came up with some of those quick scores where we were able to get deflections and get out and run and again rebound the ball. I don't think there has to be a big drop off. I really don't. We've tried to be consistent. We're always going to, like, we've got some guys that aren't playing that offensively that could help us, but to your point, they would probably give up more points on the defensive end, and we're not going to do that. We're not going to have a guy that can say maybe make a positive effect on one end, but then he's a detriment on the other end. And so we expect the guys that are out there playing offense to be able to guard and do their job on that end as well. And this team is consistently, we've guarded okay. I will go back to this. The nights that we've struggled defensively, we probably have struggled more offensively because we don't give ourselves a chance. We don't give our defense a chance to do what we think it can do because of just poor offense, turnovers, whatever way you want to call it. It hurts us and bad shots. But going forward, again, I don't think you have to lose anything. I like to think that everybody we have out there know that they have to compete on the defensive end. And like offensively, I like to say, hey, every game's going to be played like that, but I know it's not going to happen. I mean, other teams are going to make adjustments and try to make you make adjustments. But on the defensive end, you make adjustments, but we shouldn't have to say that we're going to just give people points because we need some on the floor offensively,
Coach, you talked the other night about the conversation with Jaden and Keon being aggressive has been happening for weeks now. How confident are you that now that they have maybe gotten over that hump, that it wasn't a one-game sample size of them being aggressive?
Well, again, I have confidence in those guys, obviously, and we expect them to do it. But we also knew that they're going to have some success doing it. And now they're going to have some success doing it when people are going to even try harder to keep them from doing it. And so it's a balance there that we continue to get better with it. And if people don't think that we need John Fulkerson and E. Pons to do what we know they're capable of doing, they're mistaken. I mean, we've got to have everybody. I mean, I think that's what is the best part of this team is that we've got enough guys that on any given night, we've got 5 or 6 guys that can do some damage on the offensive end. But and we expect those 5 or 6, 7 guys that we're counting on heavily to do what they're supposed to do on the defensive end. But we have confidence in them. But sometimes it takes time for those guys to realize it themselves and understand what do we mean? What does running really mean? What does being strong to the basket mean? What do we mean by don't stop yourself when you've got a chance to go make a great play at the rim? And so does it take time? It does. And I'll go back to this. We missed a lot. And those all that we missed, that every team, not just us. I think you see it with other young players around the country. That time that the stops and starts with the COVID has affected everybody to some degree. And I don't think it's any question it affected our guys. The other night, I thought was the best those guys have done fighting fatigue throughout the game because they had to, because of the foul trouble we were in the first half with Santi and Fulke. And those guys, I thought, really did a great job of pushing themselves maybe further than they have since they've been here in the game. And that was a big moment for us, for those guys to understand what it meant to fight through fatigue and still find a way to be effective on the court.
Rick, how well do you think Josiah's played the last 3 games? He's been probably the best rebounder on the team. Seems like he's been a consistent scorer, pretty effective defensively as well.
Well, I think Josiah is just, again, scratching the surface to finding the game that he's going to be, that will be his game once he gets it going. I mean, he has really worked hard, and you guys know how hard he's worked at shooting the ball. And we think he should be a terrific rebounder on both ends. But it's an attitude, and I think that he's embracing that. I think he's really worked hard at trying to really get that mentality in everything that he does. And the fact that he has had to play the point, he's played every position on our team now, which very few guys have been able to do that. And so I'm excited for him going forward. And the other night defensively, what he did in the latter part of the last 6, 7 minutes of the game was as big as anything that went on in the game, because Brooks was having his way with us. And Josiah did what we asked him to do on the ball, and obviously we got help from other people, which I was glad the other guys understood that adjustment that we had to make. But I'm excited for Josiah because I just think he's just getting started to the kind of player that we know he can be.
We'll go to Mike, Troy, and Jimmy Himes.
Yeah, Rick, what were the things you liked about what you got from EJ, Olivier, and Urosh in the first half the other day, and what were some of the things you didn't like?
Well, I like their effort because I think they both, all three of them really made an effort. I thought EJ executed the basket he scored. He executed our break to perfection there where he posted up. That's where we want guys to post up. I think Urosh went in and connected some things offensively, and I think both of them, came up with a big offensive rebound. Both of those guys were trying to do that. They were giving that effort. I thought the same thing with Olivier. Olivier took a shot that was not the right shot at the right time. And but I think all three of those guys, and we've said it, we're going to need everybody. And the more that guys will buy into roles and understand the game and understand their game, where they can be most effective and how they have to play, that's when your team really starts to come together. And it also means that as coaches, sometimes we have to adjust in terms of what we're teaching, that we now maybe have to teach a different way and get guys doing some things or not doing some things that we had talked about earlier. And so it's a never ending, evaluation of not only your team, but your individual players. But I really did like the effort and the focus that those guys, all of them, went in the game in what they were able to give us.
Rick, given the NCAA tournament protocols, and there has been some debate in the last week or so about teams that feel comfortable with their NCAA tournament positioning, opting out of conference tournaments. Have you guys talked about that at all? And what are your thoughts on the matter?
My thoughts are we're going to go one day at a time, and we're going to get ready today, starting today, to get ready for Georgia. And that's what we'll talk about. I don't know what all I mean, again, that's what you guys have to do, keep up with all that. I'm really somewhat oblivious to it. I don't think about it. I won't allow myself to go there. I'm just going to think about what we have to do to try to win one more game and just try to stay that focused, because that's what we're asking our guys to do. Let's just worry about what we can worry about today, getting better, and then get into our preparation and see if we can get prepared to, because I don't think any games are gimmies. I don't think that we're the kind of team that can think that we've ever arrived. I will say that about any team. I just don't think you can think that way. But we simply ask the guys to do what we do, and that's just get ready for the next game.
Rick, did you find it encouraging that Pons and Fulkerson combined for 6 points and you still won at Kentucky?
Jimmy, I don't think about it like in being encouraged by it, because I want to see those guys play well and do what we know they're capable of doing. But I think that I've said it for a month now that I think we have the ability to play different ways, and we've got confidence in guys that are going to work hard and buy into what we're trying to get done and know the philosophy of what we need to do with our team. But the fact is, we're deep enough into the season that if we call on guys, we like to think that they're going to do their part. And if you would have told me going into the game that John Fulkerson would not score a basket, I'd say, well, it's going to be a really tight game, which it was. But the fact is, it allowed some guys, some lineups to be out there that, again, that we haven't done a lot with. But the biggest thing was we had, as a group, we had talked about for 2 days, and again, and I'm telling you, it's nothing that we haven't emphasized from day one about getting out and going and playing quicker, faster. But that can't happen if we don't get stops. And but the fact is, we've just got to continue to build what we're doing right now and be able to play multiple ways, because we're going to have to go back, and there's going to be some nights when we're going to have an inside game, and whether it's through the guards or whether it's through the post guys, we still need everybody.
Georgia got off to a really slow start in SEC play. What has been the key to Georgia's turnaround?
You talk about a team that's terrific in transition. They really, I think, have done a great job getting out in transition and playing. And they really good point guard play. Terms of a very hard player to defend because of the speed and quickness, and ball screens from different action, and they'll play some zone. They'll play man to man, but they'll also go to their little 2-3 zone that they have and mix it that way. And but I think, again, it's like most teams right now. You as the season goes on, coaches, players get to know each other better and starting to figure out what might work, what might not work. But I think they've won 3 in a row now and playing as well as anybody in our league.
We'll go to Nicholas Hill, Wes Rucker, and Tom Wood.
Out of curiosity, when were you guys notified that you would be playing Georgia on Wednesday instead of Florida, and just how quickly did you guys have to rearrange your preparation for a different opponent on such short notice?
Well, in terms of our preparation, our coaches we divide up scouting amongst Coach Schwartz and Coach Oliver and Coach English. And so those guys are really out in front a week before we get ready to play those teams. We got word, I think, late Saturday or sometime Saturday that there was a possibility, and I think that we got the email after the game Saturday night late that the switch was going to be there. But again, our coaches were already had been starting to prepare for Georgia, even though I'm not even sure when we were going to play him. I don't even remember when it was. But the guys at Scout, they are like, I just walked into the gym now. I mean, I saw Coach English working on LSU and he'd been working on them last week. So our staff, those guys do a great job of being out in front, knowing this year, especially, that these things can happen. And so they have to be way out in front of it. They'll obviously go back and pick up their last game, whenever that like the Vandy game, to add to the scout report. But we knew officially Saturday night that we would be doing this.
Hey, Rick, I know that Saturday was obviously just a different kind of game for Fulke, and it's just one of those things that happens. but I think over the past maybe 3 weeks, he's averaging something like 6 points a game. Is his current level of performance, is there a concern there, or is it just kind of a blip?
Well, I think you're always concerned about players when you know that they're not playing as well as they want to play, as well as we want them to play. But I just think that John's been around long enough, and I've seen guys go through it, and I think he's had a lot on him in terms of teams preparing for him and him realizing that, he's in a totally different role than he was even last year at the end of the year when he was playing terrific basketball. And I go back, we wouldn't have won the game against Colorado without him. I go back where he had not practiced all the way up till that game. But some of it too, as your team continues to develop, I like to think that we're going to be able to, and he can feel that we can take pressure off of him where everything's not on his shoulder. Maybe with preseason, hype that everybody thinks this, that, or whatever, you still got to perform. But I do know he cares as much as any player that we've ever coached. And I think that he's going to, and we still need him desperately to play the way that we know he's capable of. But again, I've seen players through the years go through it, but we've still got basketball left to play, and I just believe that he's going to get it back.
Do you think he's past that point of maybe being a guy who will ease back into being comfortable as a role player? I know that's been an issue at times in his career. Is there a concern that he could kind of fall back on that habit?
No, I think he's as unselfish as any person I've ever been around. I mean, he will do whatever he feels is right for the team. I don't think he's got a problem with whatever role what's going on in the game. And again, we went into the last game planning on doing he was a part of what we were trying to do, just like he and Eve would be. But their roles, again, I would tell you, we talked to both of those guys, just like the other guys. It starts on the defensive end, and that we expect those guys to carry that end of it. And then we've got something in our offense where we can we'd like to put every player, and again, by name, you go down the line where we feel that we know where they're most effective. And depending on how the game's flowing, we're going to put those guys and try to get our guys to understand this is what we've got to do right now and get this done. But Fulke he understands it. He knows at times that when we need to go through him, he knows other times that we're not going to go through him. But he'll again, he's so unselfish. He'll do whatever we ask him to do.
Hey, Coach. So I'm writing a piece about the SEC tournament, which is about a month away. And I'd like to get your reflections on last year's cancellation as y'all were getting ready to play Alabama. And then also about the upcoming tournament, what the atmosphere was like last year, what you expect this year, as far as protocols go, and should fans be allowed to return, just in general, your thoughts?
Well, going back to a year ago, it was a very, I think, scary, unknown time for all of us because we weren't quite sure what to make of the COVID. And when things started happening as quickly as they did at the end of the year, and once we saw the reaction of the NBA, how things were going there, and I remember again going into the arena that day and strongly feeling that we shouldn't be doing it because I just felt like there was just so much unknown. And I think we did the right thing as a league at that time. I think the college basketball did the right thing at that point in time. Do we know more now than we did a year ago? We do. We've learned a lot from all the different professional sports and ourselves going through what we've learned through the intercollegiate athletics, at not just football, basketball, but other things. Are we more prepared to handle things? I think we really are. And I think one of the things that we realize now as much as any is how much the players want to play, but we've also never lost sight of the most important thing is making sure that everybody's healthy and safe and the environments are created like that. I can only tell you through what we've done here at home. I think that people have felt safe coming into Thompson Bowling Arena. I know that all the things that we have done for our players, the protocol that were set before us and mandated by the SEC have worked, and we go on the road. We've seen it just a tremendous amount of consistency with every arena that we've gone into. Every hotel that we've stayed in has been more than accommodating, helping to make sure that we follow every protocol that we make. And I can only imagine, and I think, do we as a society need live as close to normal as we can? I do think that, but I think that we've got to continue to practice safe. We've got to all know that we're not through this yet. We're not. And I don't think we will until we feel like there's a huge amount of, I don't know we'll ever feel totally through it until I can talk about the vaccine and all that. But the fact is, where we are right now, I think we're in a good place. And in terms of conference tournaments, I just don't think, and I've got great respect in terms of other leagues doing the right thing with their protocol to make sure that the most important thing, we're not going to put players or fans in any harm's way. Do I think that we can have people at the SEC tournament? I do, but I think it's got to, until whatever the protocol is, we've got to follow it and do it. And I'd like to think that people are going to continue to wear masks. I think masks make a difference. I really do. I don't think it's been an inconvenience during the game, other than maybe it hides frustration a little bit from coaches. I think that, which might be a good thing. But the fact is, players would tell you that they're grateful and thankful that we've been able to play games this year. And I know that we've had stops and starts, and I think most of us are mostly aware of what's going on in our world. And around, like you think of Michigan, I think they're going to be shut down for a month, maybe. Which that's hard to believe when you think about it, when you really stop and think about it. And I can only imagine what their players are feeling right now, because I know what it felt like when we weren't able to get the season started on time and the way our guys felt. But again, Michigan, Tennessee at the time did what was right in terms of the protocol. And I think that's what's going to happen going forward. Could some crazy things happen a week before the tournament where some teams who might not be able to participate? Could it happen? It could. I don't think we know that. I really don't think so. And I like to think that we're all going to try to proceed with the kind of caution that we need to. But for anyone right now to think that we know it's going to be smooth from here till the end, I think would be really naive to think that. And we've got to be prepared to deal with whatever's right there in front of us with the utmost, making sure that we're going to do the right thing for people's safety.
Thank you.
Okay.
We'll go to Rob Lewis, Mike Wilson, Teresa Walker, and finish up with Jimmy Himes.
Coach, just personnel wise with Georgia, what jumps out about them when you're scouting them? What do you try to take away?
Impressive point guard play, a great deal. I mean, speed, quickness, play hard, rebounding the ball well. Again, offensively, I mean, they can put numbers up on you. And I think Tom, again, will look to attack certain situations if he what he sees and he thinks that he can take advantage of. But transition game is a huge part of what we have to deal with against Georgia, but also, I mean, it's every night, you've got to deal with that. But they're very efficient when they get out in transition. And their ball screen actions are really good because of the speed and quickness they get from the point position.
Rick, you mentioned having a kind of list of where players are most effective. Where is Keon the most effective, and how has that evolved throughout the last month or so in his game?
The first time I sat down with Keon, first time I ever met him, we were talking with her in our first visit. I asked him, I said, what position do you see yourself playing in college? And he literally did not bat an eye. He said, power forward. And I laughed. I said, you kidding me? And I said, I like that. But we always saw him as a guard that could, and a player that could play anywhere on the floor. And I think that about him now. And I know that he's going to continue to work it. I mean, he, like all young players, you don't ever stop working at shooting the ball. But Keon feels very, very good. If you've watched him through the years, he feels he's got a great finishing game around the rim. His mid-range game is terrific. I don't think it matters who he feels guarding him. He feels like he can get shots off against guys. He's learning through the years as I've watched him grow since that time where he made the move to start playing on the perimeter and learning how to try to play the point, learning how to play up facing the basket. But there's not a spot on the floor that I don't think he's effective, Mike. I think he can do a lot of different things, and I think he can play a lot of different ways. He can play with his back to the basket. He can turn his face close in. He can, play beyond the arc and make plays from there. And he's I thought the play of the game for him was when he went in for that play and he was getting ready to dunk the ball, and the guy came from the backside and blocked the shot. I thought it showed who he was. He didn't flinch. I mean, he didn't flinch at all, because we tell our guys all the time, be aggressive, go to the basket. And if a guy blocks your shot, hey, pat him on the tail and say, hey, man, great play. Get up and go right back at it. And he did that. If you go back and think about the very next play, he took the ball out, we got the ball back into him, and he went in and scored or got fouled. I mean, and I thought that was a huge play for him, because it didn't faze him that someone blocked the shot, because he was going in to do what he needed to do, and he recognized it was a good play by the defense, but it didn't faze him at all.
Rick, with as fluid as this season has been, understand not wanting to look ahead to what the tournament could look like, but the chance to get games and just get more court time be something that could be effective and a motivation and factor to want to play in the tournament for teams?
Yeah, I think so. And again, I don't know this, but I'm just saying what I think. We have a contract. We have a contract to have an SEC tournament. And we have a contract, I'm sure, in Nashville with the building there. We have a TV contract. So I can't imagine, unless something happens that would give us a right to void that contract, how we wouldn't honor the contract. I do think that now, depending on here in the end of the year, how many games we'll get to make up, I don't know that. I don't know if everybody will have the same amount of games when we finish in the regular season, what it's going to look like. I like to think that if we can get everybody to 22 games, maybe that would be a successful run for us. But I think it will also give us all a chance to evaluate where we are in the tournament. Our league has done a great job. They really have, in terms of, Florida having to close it, shut it down, and now rearranging to get us playing. They're going to try to keep it as continuity and moving as much as we can to get it going. If you ask me right now how we make up games other than that one date that we have at the end of the year, I think there's some at the end of the year, because we're ending early. You could get in a couple games. Someone told me some teams getting ready to play like 4 games in 8 days in a mid-level conference. I can't remember what team it was, but they're getting ready to do that. At the end of the year, some of us might decide to do that to get those games that if we are lacking a bunch of, or lacking more, or we think we need it. I just don't know. I don't know how it's going to go, other than I just can't imagine us not trying to fulfill the contract that we have with our conference tournament right now, unless something just bizarre. That's not the word. It's something that comes up that we just can't do it. So right now there's so many things that have happened that, again, I think it would have been naive to think it was going to be smooth sailing all the way through. But all I can say is I think our league, again, has handled it in just a great way to keep us moving forward.
Rick, you were talking about how good Georgia's point guard play is. How would you assess your point guard play?
Well, we've got multiple guards that we put there. I mean, I think Santi's still hasn't played his best basketball yet. He's had moments. We've all had moments. I mean, you go back and look at our guards, they've all had really good moments. Goes back to what, Jimmy, we talked about consistency, and that's what we want to get done. But, like the other night when Josiah was playing what would have been, he would be considered a frontline player. He got the ball, came down and brought it down. So we had 4 guys on the floor. And you've watched this year, you've watched Eve Pons bring it down the floor. You've watched John Fulkerson. And depending on who gets the rebound, we'd like to get out and go, push it ahead. But in just overall point guard play, I would say it's been inconsistent, but yet we have confidence in the guys that we know that can play that position. And like I said, we work on it every day, and we'll continue to do that. The other day, I would say that overall guard play was pretty good.
Do you need to be more consistent at point guard to be a more consistent team?
I think that we've got to be more consistent at taking care of the ball. I think that's really important that we understand that. I think we got to be more consistent at understanding that how offense and defense is connected. I think that's important. Defense, offense, offense, defense. Understanding that if we want to be a team that can get out and run, it's a whole lot easier. You can get rebounds and stops and get rebounds and go that way. If a team scores, it gives them a chance to try to set up and do some things, even though I think that you can still combat it by getting the ball in quick and pushing the ball. You got to be able to be more consistent when teams are changing defenses, where you want to stand to an attack mode and continue to play at the pace that you want to play at. But understanding time and score, I think, is really important with this group. I still don't think we're there with the younger guys yet, totally understanding it, but that's where we've got to help them. I've got to help them. But there's a lot of things. I mean, I could talk about a lot of different areas and a lot of different things, but it goes back. We've got a good group of guys that want to be good. We've got an unselfish group of guys. And the more that we can get players to understand roles, but shot selection, taking care of the ball, consistent defense, rebounding the ball. If you get consistent there, you'll be pretty consistent throughout.